Hey listeners, I want to tell you about the 34th PASA Sustainable Agriculture Conference happening February 5th through 7th in Lancaster, PA. You can register at pasafarming.org/HRN. That's PASA farming.org/HRN. This conference draws a diverse group of rural and urban farmers, educators, advocates, entrepreneurs, community groups, artisans, researchers, policymakers, home cooks and gardeners, youth, and others for 3 days of learning on sustainable agriculture and food systems topics. I went last year and I had a blast and I learned so much. So don't miss more than 80 educational sessions and an expansive trade show. Again, you can learn more and register at pasafarming.org/HRN.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Hey everyone, Greg Benson here, and if you're a regular listener of The Speakeasy, you probably know by now that I've been working to bring 100% pure, actually good-tasting agave nectar to the United States for a minute. But I wanted to give you a bit of an update. I actually got to travel to the farm where these amazing plants have been growing for decades, and it was just a genuinely moving experience. I got to see these agave in their natural habitat and see what it means to Rogelio, the farmer, to be able to care for the descendants of the same agave that his grandfather was growing almost a full century ago. That's why I'm proud to announce Quixote Imports, a new venture that's dedicated to preserving these agave and, yes, still bringing in the same fantastic, earthy, lightly fruity agave nectar that's going to make you wonder why you've been wasting your time with the crap at the grocery store. Plus, our fans here at the Speakeasy can get free shipping at checkout with promo code SPEAKEASY, so don't wait. Head on over to quixoteimports.com and see what agave nectar is actually supposed to taste like, and use promo code SPEAKEASY for free shipping. Salud.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sing. It's gonna get you some in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Sother Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and whoo boy, what a week, huh,
Oh,
Sother? I want to do a little shout out to anyone that's still managing to do dry January out there after the last 48 hours, because Jesus fucking Christ, you have the stony faced constitution of like a Roman Praetorian guardsman or like a bouncer at a strip club, just like that pure, like emotionless detachment from the events of the world around you. So I was trying not to drink during the week, but whatever.
When did it end? Monday afternoon?
Monday, yeah, exactly, basically. Sometime around noon, Eastern time, weirdly enough. Oh, well, such is life. I've opened the last two shows here talking about the news and bumming everybody out, because that's what happens when you leave me alone with the show, Sother. So I could say whatever the fuck I want with a live microphone and everyone comes away real sad. So you have a thing up about bitters and soda. Talk to us about that. What's going on there?
Oh, yeah. I was interviewed for Forbes regarding dry January, but I tried to curve the conversation a little bit more. And I've even reposted the thing and altered the title of the article. It's something about dry January, but I'm just like, this is a great alternative thing to simply drink. Bitters and soda, of course, I'm a champion of that stuff. I boast the world's largest collection of bitters. I'm an avid soda, seltzer water, drinker. And it's a great way to, jazz up the flavor and do it without a lot of calories, and generally speaking, stay below the technical definition of non-alcoholic of 0.05% ABV or lower. However, I did the math, and I did it for the article as well. You need about a teaspoon if you're going to use a 10-ounce Collins glass, which is still not even quite a full 12-ounce soda can, you know. And a teaspoon is going to put you up to I can't remember right now. It's in the article. We'll link it in the show notes. But I think it puts you up to like 0.67 or 0.76. I can't recall. So it's past the limit of totally non-alcoholic, but it still gives you a boost of flavor. It's negligible alcohol. I think it's important to remember, you know, literally bananas have more alcohol than would be legally considered, you know, once they're pretty ripe. Orange juice typically goes past the legal limit just on its own by, natural fermentation. So I think that we get a little bit too caught up in the rules of this thing when you should, the whole point of it should be an extension of your enjoyment of the thing, right?
Well, this brings me to an interesting point because you have thoughts on dry January.
See, this is where I knew you were going.
You have thoughts on this, but this is, I don't know. I was interested to
Bad
see
for
you write this
business.
article because this feels like,
I didn't write it. I was just interviewed.
Oh, okay. Well, you in this article then.
Yeah.
It was very, I don't know. It was pitched to me as just like, hey, Sother did this article. And that's, even though I read someone else's byline at the top of it, when I actually read it, that was the way it was in my mind. And that's the way it still is. But, you know, like, is this your way of sort of, meeting the dry January people halfway, being like, well,
I mean, in some way, listen,
this.
I don't have a problem with people's desire to be, moderated in their drinking. Hey, Greg, you're in the dark now. Your lights went out. Your battery-powered lights went out.
Yes, my battery-powered lights in my little camping studio that I built here.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. I'm just here to say all of the things about dry January that people see as a positive, I think they overlook that there's a few negatives that they wouldn't necessarily want to be a part of. First, I say, stopping drinking for a month means that you likely ramped up your drinking at the end of the previous month, and you will likely ramp up your drinking at the end of the month that you stopped, right? So it's sandwiched between two kind of maybe probable binges. It's not good. Also, it's not very good for you in the first place to alter your style of intake that sharply, right? My suggestion is instead of, and then also there's so many things. Oh man, it bothers me. Not drinking for the month of January means that you're going to disappoint yourself. Someone's birthday is going to pop up, and you're going to say, "Well, I didn't make it because I had to, go to my friend's birthday," or some celebration is going to happen, or something like that. Rather, take Tuesday off all year long. Instead of 31 days, it'll be 52 or whatever. And then if someone's birthday happens to fall on a Tuesday this year, then you move that week to Wednesday, and you don't have to disappoint yourself, right? So there's like this sort of self-disappointment that's built into the thing, I think. And then there's also this notion that I think that people don't pay attention to. You love your local bar and restaurant. You feel strongly about their survival. Taking a month off from them every year is a massive hit to the bottom line in a business that's already, very tight margins. So I think there's this like negative outcome for the businesses that you proclaim that you love, not getting your business for that month, and maybe even a lot of people's business for that month, or lowering the tab. If it's a restaurant, you're going to the restaurant still eating, but you're not drinking. It's a big hit. So I don't know. I just see a lot of negatives to the whole process. Moderate your drinking throughout the year instead of trying to moderate it for 1 month of the year.
Yeah, I think it's
that's
just kind
the
of
softest way I can say this. Normally, I'm kind of yelling.
Yeah, you get every January I ask you about this, and every January you get a little bit softer. There's a little more.
Well,
your butter's a little bit more melted.
I think the worst part is now we got it twice, right? So we've only got 12 months of the year to make revenue at a bar and restaurant, and now we got sober October, dry January. Like you're really pinching us, in a field of endeavor where we're kind of already pinched from every side. It's difficult. I see it as a negative.
No, I mean, I first of all, I don't know. Sober October, Halloween is all that about drinking. I don't like that spooky season. Don't you want to just, I don't know. And it's like starting to get a little chilly, so you can just nip into a bar and kind of like warm up a little bit. That one doesn't. The dry January makes sense to me because I mean, like I took some time off because I lived the last 2 months of last year. Like it was a constant bender. Like the last 10 weeks of it, I was just like on shore leave for a number of reasons. And so like this is a nice chance to be a little bit more like mindful of it. But yeah, I don't know. I've never understood the sort of like white knuckle flex. Like if that brings you joy, fine. But like if it doesn't, then I don't know. It doesn't, it's do what makes sense to you with the data that you have and know that there is a value add to doing things that make you happy, I guess
There
is
you
sort
go.
of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
you know who else makes me happy, Sother?
tell me, Greg, who makes you happy?
It's our good friend Dani Zig, the
Hey,
CEO
Dani.
and co-founder of Coconut Cartel, who's back in the studio with us. Dani, thank you so much for joining us.
What's
Again,
up? Thanks for having me. I didn't comment earlier, but your glasses, I mean both of you rocking glasses, but Sother, your red glasses today are on fire.
thanks.
Awesome.
They are like weirdly my signature. I got the glasses, my first pair ever. I got the glasses right when my book came out, and so I literally signed my book with a red Sharpie, and I draw my glasses.
I'm digging them.
Literally my signature. Dani, it's a balmy 63 degrees in Miami where you are, as a lot of the nation gets dusted or covered in snow. Got some friends down in New Orleans who are a couple inches deep, which is absolutely crazy. I saw some people skitching. You know what that is? Skitching down the street on a snowboard with a rope behind a car.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
In Charleston, South Carolina, amazing. Not common things in the deep South where I'm from, but 63 degrees where you are, and you are again the CEO of Coconut Cartel. You've been on the show before, but remind the listener what it is you produce.
so Coconut Cartel, we're a rum brand primarily. And we do some funky stuff with coconut water and rum. So we kind of combine coconut water in our proofing process. It's sort of this unique thing that we I don't know, kind of Frankenstein at one point, where we used fresh coconut water from farms in Central America where my brother and I grew up. Just like fresh, really good coconut water. You get it straight off the tree, hasn't been pasteurized, hasn't been processed in any single way, and use that to dilute our rum blends down to our dark rum down to 40%, and our blanco, which we can talk about a little bit later, down to 46% with that coconut water. So that's kind of like our funky little unique thing that we do, and it brings a really nice texture and flavor profile to our rums that have been really fun to bring to market in the last few years.
Yeah, I think this, when you guys were on for the first time, I thought this was insanely intuitive and smart, and I was just sort of dumbfounded how it hadn't been done before. Can you just quickly explain to the listener who may not understand exactly what you mean when you say proof down, what exactly that means?
Sure. Yeah. So every spirit, when it comes off of a still or when it comes out of a barrel, and it's getting ready to be bottled, you're going to go through a process called proofing, which is just a fancy word for dilution, diluting it down with water to the desired strength. So any bottled liquor, you pick it up, it has a percentage of alcohol by volume on it. So if it's 40% alcohol by volume, that means 40% of that bottle is alcohol and 60% of it is generally water. So we kind of jumped into that other 60% of the pie, and innovated there using coconut water in that process of dilution.
Yeah, and as I understand it, you're kind of the first to really do something like this, right? And it's created a little bit of a ripple in the mixology world, where Greg and I have had people on in the past who've done what's called switching, right? Which is where the bartender themselves will take a bottle of spirit and freeze it to a temperature, or subject it to temperatures that are low enough to freeze the water, scrape the water off, calculate how much they removed, and then replace that with whatever liquid they want to proof down the product, right? Um,
Yep.
and I think, again, you are the first that I know of. Do you know of any other brands out there that are doing something like this from before sale?
Um, Not that they're, I guess, promoting it in that way. We've heard some
Mhm.
brand owners tell us, like, you gave me a really great idea, and I used actually espresso to proof down a neutral grain spirit, and I made a some sort of like espresso liqueur that
Mhm.
way. Um, you have some brands that will talk about what they proof their spirits down with, meaning the type of water they use. So, like, you have like Tin Cup whiskey, they talk about using Rocky Mountain water. And so they're shouting out the proofing agent and giving that a value in their spirit, saying, the minerality and the special, I guess, mineral content that you get from Rocky Mountain water is what makes our whiskey great.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just like a couple off the top of my head examples of people giving that the other side of the bottle some love.
I mean,
but
so
not
that's
really
great.
that
Like
many.
you're a pioneer in this technique, and I'm shocked. You were on the show back kind of during the pandemic, so it's been a while. I'm shocked to see that no one has taken up this charge, because the resulting product is super unique and delicious, right? Like when you were on, we drank some Coconut Cartel, and I remember just being like very V8 moment, the palm on the forehead, like wow, how come everyone isn't doing this? I feel like that, as far as line extensions go for brands, it seems like such an easy in to say, well, let's just proof one of our products down with a different liquid than water. Seems such an easy get, but no one's doing it but you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like, do we have a bad idea? I don't know. I'm kidding.
No, you do not. No, you do
No.
not. Because I mean, like one of the things I really love about and have loved for many, many years since you were first on the show. Again, during the pandemic, I just remember that like I still had to power my laptop with a crank. Like, we hadn't invented batteries yet. It was that long ago. But yeah, like it as you mentioned, not only gives it a really nice like flavor that feels like actual coconut and not artificial coconut, and I think we can all tell the
100%.
difference, but like the texture also is just such a
Yes.
lovely smooth thing that it does really surprise me that other people haven't come up with this. And I would sort of love to hear a little bit about kind of like, when this idea occurred to you, did you have this notion that we're talking about now of just like, why isn't everyone else doing this? Like, why don't we this seems kind of like an obvious hole in the market. Like, what's up with this? Sort of like, I'd love to hear a little bit about that origin story.
I'd love to say that we're that smart, but no. So we actually, we come from originally we come from coconut water. So we had this obsession with coconut water since 2012. Coconut Cartel as a brand came out of the coconut water brand. And we did that by reactivating about 10,000 acres of coconut farmland in Central America, so deep in the coconut world. And when we would come to sell them here in the States, because we were working in hospitality, we were selling them mostly to hotels and, beach bars, pool bars, that kind of thing. We weren't really selling into natural grocery because it was you would think that's like where you would go, but it's a natural coconut that's not uniform in shape. It doesn't sit on a shelf. You have to open it with a tool. So like, it's not something easy to sell in grocery. So we were selling them to like beverage directors of the Fontainebleau Hotel, of the whatever, like resorts on the beach. So we were interacting with spirits people from the beginning. And what we were fascinated by was that when you would combine coconut water, so just kind of like spike the coconut water or make a cocktail with our coconut water, it was so smooth and easy to drink that we would be like, careful with that. It's dangerous. Like if you slurp up your coconut, spiked with whatever's in it, it has a lot of alcohol in it. And people would complain. They would send their drinks back a lot saying, there's nothing in here. I ordered it with rum, or I ordered it with vodka, whatever it was. And they couldn't taste it. So it was definitely something that we, over years of doing that, found that coconut water in particular has this ability of cutting the bite, like cutting the heat on it. And, maybe it comes down to, I don't know, maybe it's like, or it's like maybe the salinity of it, or just like the minerals of it combined with the alcohol on a chemical level that really like cut the heat that we were really interested in. And then the other side of it is kind of like, when you think of what's going on in the cocktail world, also with saline solution, coconut water has this natural salinity to it that makes flavors, it enhances flavors, right? We put salt on food to enhance its flavor. You put saline solution in food or in drinks to enhance the flavor. The coconut water could do the same thing. So when we used it originally, when we were trying to make our original blend, we weren't thinking like, this is how we were going to do it. What we knew is that we wanted to take this like amazing ingredient that we love, which is the coconut water, the coconut in itself, the meat, everything. We played with everything. We love rum innately because we're Guatemalan and Venezuelan. So it was just kind of like we didn't really think too much of it. It's just genuinely what we drank. And we wanted to find a way to bring them together in a natural way that represented the coconut with rum in it. That wasn't like a flavored thing. That was just like really clean and easy and what representative of what it was in its natural state. And it came down to using the coconut water in the proofing process. It was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of tasting different things. And it was an aha moment when it happened. So just kind of backed into it by following our tongue, right? And tasting different things.
Yeah. I mean, I know exactly what you mean when you say it takes away the bite and rounds out the spirit, because the very first time I went to Puerto Rico many years ago, I don't think I was out of the airport before my friends there handed me a drink, and it was just, I remember it was Johnny Walker on ice with coconut water. And I was like, I've just landed on this island and I'm drinking scotch, and they were like, scotch and coconut is the thing here. And I was, and even that, right? My grandparents being from Scotland, I was like, this is not, these guys just handed me this. I'll drink it and I'll get on to the real deal. But I was blown away at how good it was. And we drank them that whole trip, and every trip I've been back, we drink them all the time. So it seems like a pretty natural and smart fit. And especially that thing you just mentioned about salinity. Salinity, like really, I think there's some, as you said, some sort of chemical reaction that's happening with the spirits, that it just really transforms it into something super delightful. So like, I, for one, am a big fan of your product.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And just to refresh the listener, you mentioned that you started with the whole coconuts. You were selling whole coconuts to places all over the place, and that's why you have the moniker Coconut Cartel. You guys were kind of smuggling them back, right? Suitcasing bunches of coconuts back and selling them to the hotels and the bars, right?
Quite literally. Yep. My brother and I were just going.
Quite literally. Coconuts are big. How many could you smuggle at a time? 20?
Well, no. If you take the husk off of it, right, the green part, you got like that inner
get
nut.
down to the white, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like the size of a softball, so you could fit like 50 in a big suitcase. Everyone bring up a couple of those. Yeah, you got a couple hundred coconuts at a time. Yeah.
Holy smoke!
Get one of those
Right,
Amex cards. You get like 2 free check bags, and yeah, you're good. The trip pays for itself, basically.
All right.
Yeah, it was definitely not profitable at first.
No business is. Ugh.
Yeah, so we were doing that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what innovations you're moving towards, right? Well, you got Coconut Cartel, but you mentioned you dripped it out earlier. You've got a Blanco on the scene. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So we had our dark rum or añejo for like 5 years. There it is. Nice. I got mine here too. Go.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. So we had our añejo out for 5 years before we put anything new out. We're really super focused on figuring out where we're going with it, who our customer was. Like there was also a pandemic in the middle, so it was just like crazy times. And we didn't put something out until May of this past year, so 24. We came out with our white rum, our blanco, and that was sort of my passion for the last, I guess, 2 years prior to that, because I became obsessed with the rums coming out of Mexico with charandas. Love charandas. I love the banana funkiness of it. I love making daiquiris with it. And I started exploring. My husband and I actually both really became obsessed with agricoles and just kind of went down all those rabbit holes of those funky white rums. And I always wondered, going back to the coconut water, what it did for the dark rum and what it does for whiskey and what it does for vodka and anything that we ever mixed it with, was it cut the bite. And these white rums, like agricoles and stuff, they're pretty heavy. Like they're pretty strong. And I think that most consumers, when they first taste it, or anybody who's not like a trained rum palate, I guess you would say, can have a bit of a reaction to it. We're like, whoa, that's like gas. Like that's a little too hardcore for me. But the flavors are amazing. Like if you can get past that, the flavors are amazing. And I kind of look at it like what's going on with in the last few years with like mezcal. Like same reaction with mezcal. First time you have mezcal, you're like, God damn, like that is smoky and intense, and like it takes you a minute to get into it to really taste the flavors of it. So it's like, all right, well, if coconut water has this ability to cut the bite and kind of like brighten certain flavors and dampen other sort of more bitter flavor notes and things like that, what would happen if we did the same thing with a white rum? So I was kind of adamant that I wanted this funky white concept of a rum. So first things first, had to find a source of like where we could make that. Our dark rum is made in Guatemala, where I'm originally from, and we don't really make that type of rum there. It's more like Spanish style, sweeter, dark, usually aged rums are what you're going to find coming out of most Central American countries. So we tried to figure out how we could like make it there and in a couple other distilleries, but it's just it comes down to the core product that you're using at the beginning, right? So like, are you using a molasses? Are you using a sugarcane juice? Like that just right there is going to affect it. Anyways, ended up finding this distillery in the Dominican Republic that was, interestingly enough, had just put up a pot still, because they're helping some of the Haitian distilleries that are having trouble producing, making some of their base pot still rum for their Clarins or for their agricoles. So when I went to visit them, I saw the pot still and I'm like, what do you have with that? And they're like, oh, you want to try some of that? Like, even for them, it was a little bit new because they're not used to making that style of rum either. Like, they're also more of a Spanish style rum. Right. And I tried some of their base pot still and I was like, boom, there it is. Like, wow, like I love this. It's so funky. It tastes awesome. Let's play with this. So ended up going to the Dominican Republic and working with a really cool distillery team there. And ironically, also, I have a friend from college that for years, when we were doing the coconut thing, was like, hey, Dani, if you ever need coconuts in the Dominican, let me know. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, not really in the Dominican, but sure, I'll let you know one day. I call him up. I'm like, hey, about those coconuts, where's your farm? He has a farm. And he's like, oh, it's here. I look it up on a map. It's literally 45 minutes away from the distillery. I was like, sick. I was like, oh my God. So so I went to go visit the coconut farm, and he has this like beautiful new coconut farm that he planted about 5 years ago. And so now it's finally like giving fruit, and it's like, not to get nerdy on coconuts, but these like big ass coconuts that have like tons of water, really sweet and tasty. So anyway, so I was like, all right, cool. Now I need to figure out how to get your coconut water over here. And like just had to play the whole logistics game, but ended up using his coconut water and their pot still rum and a 1 year age rum that they also have that was not pot still, a column still one, but all made from sugarcane juice. So key here, this distillery makes rum from sugarcane juice. They grow their own cane. It's all like from cane to bottle, completely vertically integrated. And that was key in like getting to the flavors that we wanted. So when I played with the coconut water and their rums, we kind of eventually got to the flavor profile that we wanted, which to me is like what I call an entry level funky white rum. Okay. It's not as hardcore as an agricole. It's not as hardcore as a charanda. But if you're looking to go beyond what a more like benign, I guess, white rum is and get more into the funkiness, you can start here, is my opinion. It's amazing for like daiquiris and like things that have like a citrus base. I love it actually in a martini. We played with a martini and I tested it on people where I was like, yo, try this, and they would taste it and they're like, I didn't tell them what it was, and they would taste it and they couldn't pin what it was because it's just nobody's used to that funkiness in a rum. But when it was like nice and cold with a little lemon peel and a little vermouth, it made an amazing martini. So I don't know, I just kind of became obsessed with the funky side of rum and put this white rum out in May, and I think we're gonna, in terms of spirits, we're probably going to focus on that for a bit because there's some learning curves. It's a lot of education, right? There's a lot of people that are like, what the hell is that? We kind of have to play the mezcal game of like going out there and educating people on what rum can be. So we have our work cut out for us.
Well, and that kind of brings me back to something that you said earlier that I wanted to talk about, which is that you really, you sat on this idea for a little while. Like you said that you're aged rum was on the market for about 5 years, and you were kind of, you were in your head laying the groundwork for what might come next. We were also kind of like watching the market, listening to consumers, seeing what people liked. And, as we're talking about like some of these flavors coming out of these gerandas and these rum agricoles and these sort of like, these funkier, grassier kind of like, and I mean this word with the highest esteem, gasoline flavors.
I love
that
it. I
come
love
in
a
these
gassy
things.
rum. Oh yeah.
I know. Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
Little
Hashtag
pool water. That's
I
what I
know.
call it, a little pool water.
Yeah, just like real like, ooh, my body's telling me I shouldn't drink this, but so help me God, I can't stay away.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, those flavors are less easily accessible than maybe like a bourbon or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear kind of as you were, feeling out your customer base, seeing what kind of legs your original aged rum had and where it wanted to walk. What signs were you seeing that were like, oh yeah, people are ready for this. People are ready to be kind of like challenged a little bit.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I didn't decide to put it out because the market was telling me that's what it wanted. I kind of just followed my palate on it, which business wise, maybe like, you have to be kind of careful with that. But I did start seeing that there was a lot of these rums coming to market in like the bartending world. So seeing like the tastemakers per se in what we're drinking, loved it. For example, like in Austin, there's this really great restaurant, this like taco, like fancy taco restaurant that we love to go to. And every time my husband and I go, and this is starting, let's say maybe 3-4 years ago, I would order an uruapan charanda daiquiri. And every single time from the beginning, a bartender would come out to the table with the two daiquiris and he'd be like, I just wanted to see who ordered this because, like, thank you,
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they're delicious, but like nobody knows about it, but the bartenders know about it. And I see it in
Right.
like the bar shows. So you go to like BCB and like I met the guys that like took Paranubes out to Europe and are representing it out there. And like these guys were like, dude, we don't even like really make that much money off of this. We just love this product and we love this brand and we love the producers. And that just to me was like a sign of good stuff. And I think that mezcal, again, I go back to the mezcal thing. Like mezcal is a hardcore spirit that I don't think that the common folk would have come into if it hadn't been for years of education and like
Yeah.
let's just, ilegal mezcal, like did a lot of legwork and like bring people into mezcal for years, over probably like 20 years. So they didn't wait for the market, I don't think, to tell them what's good. They started kind of just slinging it and having a few tastemakers say, that's good shit. And then you got to go out and convince everybody else. So it's the harder path, maybe, right? Like kind of telling people what they should like because you got to go against the grain. But that's what I did. I'm not
That's
going to lie.
ultimately more fulfilling, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I love it when I make a daiquiri for someone and they're expecting like some crow shit, and then I give them this and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And like, it's every time you like see the shift in their eyes of like what they thought rum was and what they thought a white rum was. And we've just converted people one by one. Doing it at scale is a little bit more challenging. Our dark rum is really easygoing. It's like a bourbon. It's super soft and easygoing. So like when you do a tasting or anything like that, like most consumers are like, oh wow, like that's so nice and easy and sippable. And like, I love that. And I could just drink it on the rocks or whatever. The white rum, when I do rum shows, the rum nerds go crazy. The not rum nerds are like, oh, that's hot, like, wow. So it's going to take a minute, but I love it. So I can't sell something I don't love.
Well, yeah, of course, but at least you're striking a balance there. You're kind of meeting both audiences. You've got the one that's going to meet the initiate, and the one that's going to meet the more adventurous or the expert, right? So that's if you're going to split your portfolio, that's I think a good strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a way for us also to kind of show off our rum chops a little bit. Be like, we're playing around in the space. I love how diverse you can get in just the rum category. So like having two completely different spirits within the same house, and they're both rum and they're both under the same flag. To me, is fun and kind of can like blow your mind a bit. where I don't think you can do that in many other categories. I think rum has that special thing going for it. So I like to kind of take you on a journey, completely different journey, depending on which one you're drinking.
Well, I have this theory about mezcal that I think that is my theory as to, I mean, like, it's delicious, but it's also, as we've been talking about, that it's kind of it's a flavor you have to kind of acclimate to a little bit as you're drinking, even some of the more mild ones. And my theory about why it took the American drinking public by storm about, I don't know, 10, 15 years, what year is it? I don't know. Some time ago, is because you can describe it in 3 extraordinarily simple words: tequila but smoky. Now, obviously that's a criminal oversimplification, but I think you can kind of like get that in people's heads, and they're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm drinking now. So I absolutely love the types of rum that we're talking about. I also love doing one of the tricks that you mentioned, swapping it in for gin in classic cocktails. If you've never done it in a French 75, treat yourself, girl. You're worth it. Damn it. But I was wondering if there would be a way that you could think to kind of like, how would you sort of like pitch this to one of those people you were just talking about, not the rum nerds, but the people who are like, whoa, oh my goodness, that was quite an experience,
Oh, I don't like to use the word funky with most people because that has, that kind of scares them. Even though like things like kombucha and like fermented foods that people are loving these days are funky. So there's like, it's a good word for me, a bad word for them potentially. I don't know. But I guess 3 words that you could use to describe it. I would say that it's fruity, but like it's herbaceous, it's fruity, and it's complex, but I don't want to use that word for them. But maybe you could just say maybe you could use complex. I think people want to feel like good about like that they feel like, oh, I discovered something. It's different. It's unique. It's interesting. It's not just alcohol. It's like a flavor journey. So maybe it's like a complex, herbaceous, fruity spirit. Yeah.
You heard it here first. We just did a marketing meeting.
I have to test that one. We're usually mixing this in cocktails when we're tasting people. The dark rum, you could just rip it on its own and it's easy, but we have had to like find a way to, like it's say in in-store tastings and stuff like that, find a way that's a little bit more approachable for people. So we'll actually even use like a margarita mix or something that's like basically a daiquiri if you dissect it, but put a little sugar, a little citrus in it, and then they're like, oh, ooh, okay, but you do need to break them into it a little bit. That's the job we have. That's the job we have right now.
Of course.
Breaking them in.
I think we're all educators, right? That's the whole position of bartending. That's the whole position of making any product. Really, you have to educate the consumer to understand what it is you've made for them and how it can solve whatever problem that they're having. And in this case, just to open up their palates and get them something new and unique and innovative to drink is, I don't know, man. Again, when we had you on before, I was skeptical, highly skeptical. Man, I saw the bottle and I was like, what? It's just coconut rum. What are these guys doing? And then I tasted it and I was like, no, this is very different. Is that the general response you get from people?
Absolutely. Yeah, we get a lot of like, oh, that's not what I expected. I thought it was going to be like, like more like a Malibu or something like that. Like, which is a challenge. Obviously, coconut's in our name. So people innately think it's going to be really coconutty. But I think that over the years, it's 2 things. One is like when you finally taste it, you have this really strong opinion that you're like, oh, wow, that was not what I expected. Like, great.
Yeah.
Like, boom. So you remember it as being like, it's not what you think. And so it can kind of be that thing where like, if you introduce it to friends or if you're pulling a bottle off the shelf and your friend's like, what is that? It's just like, let me show you. Like, I know what's good. It's like if you know kind of thing.
Sure. I'm the insider.
Yeah. But the other thing is that there is this phenomenon, I guess, happening in all grocery, I think, where coconut water or coconut as an ingredient is starting to become more of a premium ingredient that people are seeking, right? We have coconut yogurt. You have an entire coconut water aisle in the supermarket. You have coconut aminos, like soy sauces, like you've just so much stuff coming out of the coconut that people are now perceiving as a premium thing rather as this like flavored thing from the 80s that like smells and tastes like sunscreen, right? So they're starting to understand that like coconut is like a superfood, right? So
I mean, did you know that I feel like I probably did mention this the last time you were on, but I'm going to mention it again. Did you know that during the big wars, they would hook our boys up to coconuts because when they would run out of plasma, because the liquid inside of coconut is completely sterile. So
yeah,
there'd literally be coconuts hanging as IVs. Did
yeah,
you know
you
that,
could like
Greg?
live.
Have I said this before to you?
No, I did not know that. That's wild.
The coconuts are amazing.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah,
major superfood. You can like live off of them for a while. Like eat the meat, drink the water, super hydrated. You got your sugar, salts, carbohydrates in it. Like you're
electrolytes.
chilling
Yeah.
fats.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well, speaking of that, let me ask this question that I didn't ask before, and I should have. You're using the water. Are you casting off any of the rest of the coconut and using it for anything, or?
So we actually now work with a vendor that just they process the coconut for us, meaning they crack it open and they deliver us the coconut water kind of ready to go. It's super fresh, like we don't pasteurize it or anything, but they then use the rest of the coconut for other products in their product line. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
It's good
Not
symbiosis.
a sexy answer, but to be honest here.
Oh, it's a great
it is being used.
symbiosis. It's perfectly
Yeah.
sexy. It means that it's getting used, right?
Yeah.
It means that like in a world where we cast away things so quickly and easily, it means that it's getting used. I always tell people about, the Lusardo cherries that they love in their cocktail are a byproduct of making the spirit, right? Or maybe it's the other way around. They take the cherries, they pit them, they ferment those pits, and they make a spirit out of it, right? So they sell the cherry and they sell the distillate from the pits. And that's just how they've always done it because that's how you used to do things. You used to take a product and used all of it. And I think today we don't do that. So I'm happy to hear that the rest of the coconut is being used by someone, whether it's by you or not, the fact that you built it into the system, that it's not just going in the garbage.
No. We come Guatemala and Dominican Republic too are like agricultural economies. So there's just tons of stuff going on in terms of using byproduct of any fruit or anything we're
right,
growing.
all the things you just listed that can be made from coconut. It would be heartbreaking if it weren't going somewhere.
Yep.
So and I'm glad that there's the entrepreneurial spirit is there, on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, you can use the husks. So we'll use them to make a lot of like barbecue, like briquettes, like sort of like a fire starter. So it's like a natural organic fiber, flammable fiber that's used a lot. I see it a lot.
I love it.
Yeah, the meat you can make oil, and there's cooperatives that are just using absolutely everything from it. So it's a whole agricultural economy here that we're tapped into.
Well, that actually brings us to another point that I think we're kind of excited to talk about is that, I mean, this rum is out here on the market and I'm happy to see it walking around. It's very, when I first got to try it, I was, a little bit worried that like, this is just going to be like a sequel, it's like, oh, it's the same thing, but like a little bit different, kind of like repackaged, just slightly, different, but you really did push it in a different direction and it was really cool to try. So speaking of, these very fertile agricultural places that you're getting your coconuts from, are you maybe looking to experiment with any other fruits? Is there any other stuff that you've got in the hopper that you feel, don't give away the secret recipe, but like anything else that you might be playing around with in the future, you think?
Yeah, I think on the spirit side, we've thought for, again, like we probably will take 2-3 years before we put anything new out because I really have to feel like there's a really passionate reason to get behind something. There's just enough shit on the market that you don't need another flavored this or that, in my opinion. But we have played with, there's you kind of mentioned this earlier. We were chatting. There's pineapple. I think there's there's room for something like a natural pineapple to come in. There's coffee. Like again, like Guatemala is like a super agricultural economy, so we value the ability to work directly with farmers and their crops. So like having a farm to bottle coffee concept or a farm to bottle pineapple concept is completely in the cards. That said, we're actually looking right now. We're sort of in the lab and looking back on our coconut water days, and thinking a little bit more about complementary goods that we can sell along with our rum, or they can combine with our rums, or even without our rums, right? Stuff. There's obviously like a big push right now in wellness and like better drinking and just ways to live your 80-20 life, right? 80% you're on the ball, 20% you're going crazy. So trying to tap into that, trying to tap into our core, which is that coconut water at the very beginning, and bringing that full circle back around in a way that can scale with our product. So we're actually on that tip right now a little bit before we put out another spirit. Like I said, I was 5 years on the Añejo. I got 7 months in on the Blanco. We have a lot of work to do with that one. I think just putting out another product is not where my gut goes right now.
Not to hit the nail too squarely on the head, but that would be sort of diluting the brand.
Yeah. I have, yeah. It's but a lot of people do it. A lot of brands are like pumping products out to just hit cases and whatever. But
yeah, I think it's a little bit of a scattershot approach that happens with a lot of brands. You're right. Have always been the sort of I'm a big fan of slow growth. I'd rather be a smoldering ember for a long time than a raging fire for a short time. So like I appreciate the methodical, slow approach that you're taking. It's the same approach that I take as well. Well, talk to us a little bit then as we get towards the end here. Where, I don't remember from 2018, but where are you available? Are you available in every state now?
You can find us online in most states.
Okay.
We'll ship to most places, I think 40 states or so. But in physical stores, you'll find us in 18 states, mostly up and down the East Coast. So anywhere from New York down to Florida, Texas, Idaho, a little bit in California, not too much in California.
Big Coconut Cartel drinkers in Idaho.
Yeah, low key. Yep.
Is there like a war between you and like the potato vodka people in Idaho? Just like a real, sort of like turf war. It's just, we think of Idaho as a very placid place, but there's this virile, bloody conflict going on behind the scenes.
They're diluting their vodka with the potato juice.
Yeah, the potato. The potato, I'm trying to think of a P word that is somewhat synonymous with cartel/mafia/ something, but nothing's coming to mind. The potato something. Potato poppies. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're all getting a surprising amount of mileage out of the one thing we all know about the state of Idaho.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like, good for us.
No, man. I mean, people in places where it's really cold, so like Canada and like whatever, like the Midwest, they kind of just want something tropical sometimes. They need to get out of there. So like, I've been surprised.
It's a vacation in a glass.
Yeah, like, and it's exactly. So, no, Idaho rocks. We love Idaho. I want to go. I mean, I see a lot of videos come. I mean, it seems like the place to be nowadays. You have like these gorgeous like ski resorts and like amazing lake houses and stuff. I don't know. Idaho's pushing on my Instagram pretty hard these days. So it looks awesome.
I mean, I will say I have a friend who like does a lot of camping out there, and she's like, this place is gorgeous. Like I think
it's like a secret thing. Like they don't want you to know how awesome it is. They're like, yeah, you think whatever you want about Idaho. Stay away.
Yeah. Plus, you can get Coconut Cartel there. So I mean, what else do you need, really?
You can at every state store.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're rocking. We can find us in a lot of places. Cool. West Coast is still a little work to do.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I'm glad you're out there, and I'm glad you have the online ability as well. We talk about it constantly on the show. I don't want to harp on it, but America is just a collection of different countries, basically. So I know and understand that each state has its own rules and regulations about the sale of alcohol, and it takes brands a long time to get into all of them because it's like getting into a new country with each state, right? So I'm glad you have the mail option for most states that'll allow that. I wish we could get over that hurdle as well, and at least have all states be able to do that. But that's not up to us on this episode anyway.
We could sell on Amazon one day. That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah!
Come on.
Amazon drone drops of alcohol to your house. I think this does not sound like a good idea.
You'll see a lot more drones getting shot out of the sky.
Sounds like a good idea for 20 minutes. And then it sounds terrible. Well, that'd just be, anyway. Well, yeah, let the listener know where they can follow along your antics and see the growth of the brand. You got
Yeah,
an
follow
online
us
presence?
on, yeah, absolutely. Got Instagram, so at Coconut Cartel. Your Facebooker, same, Coconut Cartel. LinkedIn, I would follow my brother. He's a lot more fun. My brother's my business partner, my co-founder, and he's a lot more verbose and outspoken. And
Oh, well, then let's ditch this and we'll have him on instead.
Yeah.
I have to keep him with the leash.
On a
Okay. But he does his LinkedIn is interesting. So you can follow him, Mike Zig. But if you
You don't
DM us or anything
You don't have a
Well-
TikTok that was up and then down and then back up again?
I did the TikTok thing in like 2020, 2021. I did. That's a lot of work. Like it's just like another freaking thing. Like I
It's
can't
another
keep
job,
up.
yes. Yeah, no,
It's like
I'm not-
shit.
yeah.
So we've maintained on Instagram, and I don't know. We'll see if there's another TikTok comes out or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know. I like TikTok. I'm on there shirtless.
I
a
love
lot,
it
so it's just a lot of fun.
personally.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
I kind of like. I like it more than I thought I would. So I don't know. I have lots of
Greg?
complex feelings about it going away and coming back, but that's another podcast. Speaking of branding, though, I did want to ask one last question before we left. I was sort of wondering, is there a significance to the pelicans that are on this bottle? Because that's kind of become your thing at Coconut Cartel, and I'm wondering if that has any personal significance or if that's just kind of a fun, bird from that part of the world.
Yeah, it does. It's more of a personal significance than anything. So my brother and we grew up on Miami Beach. Like we lived in Central America I guess. Okay, back up. We were born on Miami Beach. We moved to Central America when we were kids, but like always had a foot in Miami. And our grandmother has lived there for 50 years. And she, like on the side she's an old Spanish colonial house that has like a pelican kind of stuccoed on the side of it. And then we kind of, when we were talking with our designers at the beginning about creating this brand that was, based in Miami and had this like 80s Miami vibe, for some reason, like the flamingo tends to be like the Miami bird, but we don't have flamingos here. Like the actual real bird of South Florida is a pelican. You go to our marinas, you got a pelican. Like it's like a smuggler's bird. You can put anything in that beak. Like, so for us, the pelican was like the real deal Miami bird, and we wanted to give it its shine. So that's the pelican. Miami Beach, an ode to Miami Beach.
Yeah, I love it. As again a Floridian myself, I can even envision that stucco pelican. And now as soon as you said it, I really saw it on the bottle. So it makes sense to me. Where I'm from, the bird is of course seagull. Those guys are everywhere. Well, man, so happy, Dani, to have you on the show again and talk about what you're doing with Coconut Cartel, which I think is, again, delicious. And, I know, again, you have to get past that educational hurdle, but I would encourage the listener to understand that it's not a coconut rum. It is a rum that has been proofed down with coconut water, and that engages your palate in a whole new way. And it's very delicious. And I see Greg has a bottle. I'll get him to bring it over to my house. I'm really excited to try the Blanco as well, because I do like those high ester gasoline flavors to come through, and I'd love to taste that one too. And I really appreciate you taking time to be on the show with us today.
No, thank you guys. This is a moment for me to educate, so I appreciate you giving me the platform, and hopefully you guys can come down to South Florida and warm up a little bit, have some cocktails soon.
Cool. Awesome. I just booked a flight. I'm on my way right now. Taking you up on that. Calling your bluff, Dani.
I'm here all the time. Ready. I'm not leaving. I never leave.
It's 11 degrees Fahrenheit here, so you might see us
Till
sooner
about
rather
May,
than later.
I'm not leaving.
Fair. Well, for now, that is going to do it for us this week on The Speakeasy. Be sure to check out heritageradionetwork.org for a lot more great shows just like this one. And if you want to hear more from Sother and me and Damon and our wonderful guests, you can always become a regular on our Patreon, where you've got lots of good stuff like video podcasts, access to pre-sales, bonus episodes, and a free cocktail kit every single month from our good friends at Shaker and Spoon. Also, be sure to tune in next week when we're going to have Ben Branson from Seasoned Bitters on the show. That is a new bitters company that is on the market. Sother, I don't know, have you tried them yet?
The box is here on my desk somewhere. I'll have them tried by next week.
Get to it. They're whatever you're expecting, it's going to be different. That's all I'll say. So I'm excited to dig into that one.
All right.
But for now, that's it for us. So until next time, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock.
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food and drink radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.